All right, so you're here for the real deal, right?
Yeah.
You want to know what's actually going on in tech? Cut through the noise and get to the stuff that actually matters.
Yeah, think of this as your shortcut. We do the heavy lifting, dig through the news, and pull out the bits you can actually use.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we try to make this interesting, insightful, and hopefully spark some ideas.
And this time, we're diving deep into Andrew Kagan's newsletter. It's called Random Technical News You Can Possibly Use, and it came out on March 21st, 2025.
It's a great way to get a quick snapshot of what's happening, and this week we're going to unpack it all, cover the most important developments across Azure, Microsoft 365, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, the whole landscape.
We'll touch on DevOps, SRE, data, AI, security, compliance, even learning and certifications. Plus, we'll take a look at the bigger industry trends.
So much to cover, but our mission is simple, right? We want to find those nuggets that are relevant to you, the stuff that makes you think, I need to check that out.
Let's kick things off with Azure.
Sounds good.
So the newsletter mentions an Azure update video from March 14th. These videos from Microsoft are actually pretty good for a quick overview, a good place to start each week.
And for anyone interested in cloud security, and honestly, that should be everyone, there's a video called Azure Focused Security Research.
Yeah, definitely worth a look. It sounds like a good way to get insights into Microsoft's latest thinking when it comes to cloud security.
Speaking of insights, there's something here about an Advanced Retrieval Augmented Generation Solution Accelerator, or RAG.
RAG, huh?
Yeah, it's like, you know how a student can look up facts before answering a question? RAG's kind of like that for AI. We'll get into the specifics in the data AI section, but it seems like Microsoft is really pushing this as a key technology for Azure.
Makes sense. They wouldn't be offering a solution accelerator if they didn't think it was important. Solution accelerators are all about making these complex technologies easier to implement.
Right, exactly. And speaking of making things easier, there's also news about the general availability of Azure Container Apps serverless GPUs.
Yeah. The big advantage there is that you don't have to worry about managing the infrastructure. Plus, you get granular scaling and pay-as-you-go pricing.
Much more efficient, especially if you're running those AI and machine learning workloads that have, variable demands.
Yeah, you only pay for what you use, which is always a good thing. And then there's this mention of a collaboration between Azure AI Foundry and NVIDIA to accelerate agentic workflows.
So AI agents, those are like AI systems that can do things for you, right?
Yeah, autonomously, like little digital helpers. This collaboration is interesting because it could really push the boundaries of what these AI agents can do. You combine Azure AI with NVIDIA's hardware, and that's a powerful combination.
It seems like a lot of these Azure updates are focused on AI.
Yeah, definitely a trend there, making advanced AI more accessible, whether it's through these accelerators, serverless options, or partnerships like this one with NVIDIA. Okay, let's move on to Microsoft 365.
All right, what do we have there?
Well, first up is a video called How Microsoft Does OneDrive. Now, OneDrive might not sound that exciting, but
hearing how Microsoft manages their own cloud storage, that could be useful.
Exactly. You might pick up some best practices or just get some insights into their approach.
Yeah, like how they handle versioning and recovery, things like that. Those are crucial for anyone managing data in the cloud.
Good point. And then we see AI agents popping up again, this time in a video on creating agents with the Teams toolkit.
So not just Azure, you can build these AI agents directly within Teams now.
Yeah, which makes sense since Teams is the hub for collaboration for so many organizations.
It really shows how AI is becoming more integrated into the tools we use every day. But with that comes the question of data protection, right?
Absolutely.
Luckily, the newsletter also points to a video on protecting your data from AI in Microsoft 365.
Yeah, essential viewing for anyone thinking about data governance and security in this new AI-driven world.
Definitely. There's also mention of a maturity model for Microsoft 365 March 2025 video.
These maturity models are great for organizations that want to assess how well they're using Microsoft 365.
Yeah, identify areas for improvement, get more value out of their investment.
Exactly, like a roadmap to optimization.
Right.
And lastly, for Microsoft 365, we have an employee self-service agent in Microsoft 365 Copilot.
I like this one. It's a concrete example of how AI can help with everyday tasks.
Yeah, automating those common employee requests that can bog things down.
Boosting productivity and freeing up IT and HR. Okay, on to the Power Platform and Dynamics 365.
And guess what? More AI agents.
No way.
Yeah, it's really a common thread throughout this newsletter. We have creating agents with Microsoft Copilot Studio.
So the Power Platform is another place where you can build these intelligent assistants.
Exactly. It's interesting to see how different Microsoft platforms are offering different tools for building AI agents. Shows you where they're headed as a company.
For sure. The newsletter also mentions enhanced enterprise automation observability in Power Automate.
Observability, that's key for anyone using Power Automate for mission-critical automation.
Yeah, being able to monitor and understand how your workflows are performing, spot any issues quickly.
Absolutely, especially as these automations get more complex and more important to the business. Then there are a couple of webinars from the Power Customer Advisory team.
PowerCat, yeah.
The first one is called Where Agents Meet Opportunity. It sounds like it's focused on real-world use cases for AI agents within Power Platform and Dynamics 365.
These Power CT webinars are usually pretty good. They often feature real customers talking about their implementations.
Yeah, good way to see how these technologies are being used in practice. The second webinar is about unlocking the potential of Copilot Studio.
I guess that one dives deeper into how to use Copilot Studio to build those AI-powered experiences.
Exactly. And for a broader perspective, there's also a video mentioned, the weekly Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call, March 18, 2025.
I like those. You can catch up on the latest news and get a sense of what the community is talking about.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears and talk about DevOps, SRE, and infrastructure.
The foundation of it all.
Yeah, this is where we get into the nuts and bolts. And first up is a really interesting concept, the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. It's being called the missing link between AI agents and APIs.
So AI agents need to interact with systems, and APIs are how they do that, right?
Exactly. But how do those agents actually understand and use those APIs? That's where MCP comes in.
The missing link, huh? Sounds pretty important.
Yeah, it could be crucial for making these AI agents truly practical. There's also an article on the maturing state of infrastructure as code in 2025.
Infrastructure as code, that's been around for a while.
It has, but this article is probably about how the practices and the tools are becoming more sophisticated.
Yeah, like going beyond just provisioning infrastructure to things like policy as code, detecting drift, and ensuring consistent security.
Exactly. It's about bringing more intelligence and automation to infrastructure management. And finally, in this section, we have standardizing the language of observability in open telemetry.
Open telemetry, that's the open source project for collecting telemetry data, right?
Yeah, logs, metrics, traces, all that stuff. The idea here is to standardize how this data is collected and represented.
Makes sense. Everyone's speaking the same language when it comes to monitoring.
Exactly. That's going to be key for managing and troubleshooting those complex distributed systems. All right. Let's dive into data, analytics, and AI, which has been a big theme so far.
AI is everywhere.
It really is. So first, there's a mention of powerful improvements for copy job. This might sound a bit niche, but efficient data movement is essential for all those data-intensive workloads.
Yeah, especially for AI and analytics. You need to be able to move that data around quickly and reliably.
Absolutely. Now remember, RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation.
How could I forget?
Well, we have a whole bunch of resources on RAG here. There's an article explaining what it is, another one called Beyond Training Data, and even one comparing different RAG techniques.
They're really going all in on RAG.
It's a hot topic for a reason. Essentially, our RAG allows large language models, those LLMs we keep talking about, to access external information in real time.
So they're not just limited to what they were trained on.
Exactly. They can pull in the latest information and use that to give more accurate and relevant answers. The Beyond Training Data article probably talks about that, how RAG helps to overcome the limitations of static data sets.
It's like giving the AI model the ability to do a quick Google search, right?
Yeah, a good analogy. It means they can stay up to date, provide more reliable answers, and less likely to make things up.
Less hallucinating, right?
Exactly. Then there's Chain of Draft, or COD, which is being called the new king of prompting techniques.
Prompting, that's how we interact with these language models, right?
Exactly. And this COD thing seems like a big advance in how we craft those prompts to get the best possible results. We also see the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, again, this time with a video explanation.
A missing link is back.
It keeps coming up, which really emphasizes how important it could be for connecting AI agents with APIs. And lastly, in data AI, we have a video on unlocking database conversations, semantic kernel and data API builder in action.
Sounds interesting.
It's about using AI to interact with databases in a more natural conversational way.
Could be a game changer for anyone who works with databases regularly. Okay, moving on to security, compliance, and privacy.
Always a critical area. We start with a video on following Microsoft Cloud security benchmarks.
The basics, but important.
Absolutely. If you're deploying anything in Azure, you need to be following those benchmarks.
For sure. There's also a video about inheriting sensitivity labels from shared files to Teams meetings.
So the sensitivity labels you apply to your files, they carry over to Teams meetings.
Yeah, which is important for maintaining data governance and ensuring your policies are enforced consistently.
Especially in those hybrid work environments. And we have unlocking the power of Microsoft Purview for ChatGPT Enterprise.
Microsoft Purview, that's their suite of data governance tools, right?
Yeah. So this is about integrating Purview with ChatGPT Enterprise, which makes sense if you want to use AI but still keep control of your data.
Definitely. Responsible and secure AI adoption. Beyond Microsoft, there's news about Cloudflare rolling out post-quantum encryption for enterprise users.
Post-quantum encryption, that's interesting.
Yeah, getting ready for a future where quantum computers could break our current encryption.
Forward-thinking security. And then there's this headline, Chaos in Cloudflare's Lisbon office, securing the internet with wave motion.
What? Wave motion?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that one. Sounds like a wild read, though. Back to the more traditional stuff, there's a video on managing devices with Intune and implementing conditional access.
Intune and conditional access, the cornerstones of endpoint management and security.
Absolutely. Essential for making sure that only the right people and devices can access your systems. Now, let's talk about learning and certifications. Got to keep those skills sharp.
You got it. First up, we have a video called Agentic AI What and How.
More AI agents. This one seems like a good primer on the basics.
Yeah, with all these AI agent updates, it's probably a good idea to have a solid understanding of what they are and how they work.
For sure. There's also a visual guide to large language model, LLM agents.
Visual guides are always helpful, especially for complex topics.
Definitely. And then we have retrieval augmented generation, or YI versus cache augmented generation, KAG.
More RAG plus a new one, KAG.
Yeah, seems like there are multiple ways to address those knowledge gaps in AI models.
Interesting to compare the different approaches. For developers, there's training developers on GitHub Copilot, lessons learned.
GitHub Copilot, that AI-powered code completion tool.
Yeah, this article is probably about how to use it effectively and what lessons have been learned from its adoption.
Practical insights, always valuable. And then there are some upcoming Azure Communication Services fundamentals events in April.
Good opportunity for some hands-on learning about that particular service.
Definitely. And lastly in this section, we have certification wins for Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program, MAICPP, Modern Work in GitHub.
So if you're a Microsoft partner, this is for you.
Yeah, a chance to get certified in those key areas. Okay, last but not least, let's take a look at industry news and trends.
The big picture.
Exactly. We start with a prediction about unlocking unprecedented growth from AI in 2025.
AI driving massive growth, not surprising at this point.
Nope. Then there's a video, Navigating AI's Frontier in 2025, Grace Isford, Lux Capital.
Interesting to hear a venture capitalist perspective on AI.
Yeah, they're the ones investing in these new technologies, so they have a good sense of where things are headed.
Makes sense. And then we have Scott Hanselman with a keynote, AI Without the BS for Humans.
That title is great, a down-to-earth take on AI.
I like that. Cut through the hype and get to the real stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, a question for IT leaders. What's the game plan as tech badly outpaces talent?
Yeah, the skills gap is a real issue.
How do we make sure people have the skills they need to keep up with all this rapid change?
Big question for everyone. Wow, we just went through a ton of information.
One newsletter, and it covers everything from Azure updates to the future of AI.
It really highlights how much is happening in tech and how fast it's all moving.
If any of this piqued your interest, definitely check out those linked resources. There's a lot more to explore there.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, here's a thought for you. With all these advancements, especially in AI and automation, what skills do you think will be most valuable in the future?
Yeah, think about how these technologies might affect your work, your career, your life.
It's an exciting time to be in tech, but it's also a time to be learning and adapting.
Couldn't agree more.